Does the 500 billion euro package that German Chancellor Angela Merkel and Emmanuel Macron of France agreed to fix that asteroid-sized hole?
Well, first of all, indeed, if you look at the situation in European economy, in just a few months' time, we had a major turnaround. 3 months ago, when we were presenting country reports, economy was growing, all EU member states were growing, unemployment was at the lowest level in a decade, and what we have now is all EU member states in a deep recession, unemployment increasing, so clearly we are facing major economic challenges, and it's actually not only Europe, it's across the world. So clearly that requires strong and coordinated response in terms of the macroeconomic and fiscal policy. So far, EU and its member states have already mobilized around 3.4 trillion euros in crisis response, both as a fiscal and liquidity instruments, and indeed more is to come. So we welcome the Franco-German proposal on the recovery plan, and European Commission intends to unveil its proposal on a recovery instrument next week. In any case, it's clear that we need an ambitious response with a strong and front-loaded investment component.
Do you expect all 27 countries to ratify the German Franco agreement?
Probably just an institutional correction here. So European Commission will be the one putting forward the proposal, and this proposal is going to be put forward next week. So the exact size and modalities of this proposal are still, so to say, in preparation and will be presented next week. But by doing so, of course, we take into account input we are receiving from member states, including Franco-German proposal, but not limited to that. We are also receiving proposals from other member states. And at the end of the day, we, as you said, we will need to find a consensus among all 27 EU member states. But all member states agree that we are facing exceptional situation, and we need to react strongly and in a spirit of European solidarity.
Can you give me some insight then into what you plan to propose in terms of loans versus grants that could really be that sticking point?
In any case, what we are going to propose is a substantial increase in headroom of EU budget, and European Commission raising money at the markets through common borrowing, and this money being provided to member states both in terms of loans and grants through EU budget programs. But as I said, exact size and modalities is still a work in progress. There is still a week to go, and the European Commission still continues to work on this.
How do we get out of this asteroid-sized dent with loans? Because inevitably that's going to be going to the weaker countries, and they can't repay it. How do you deal with it?
That's why we need a response which has both loans and grants, and there is going to be a strong grants component. We are also devising our response in a way that we will be linking investment and structural reforms with the guidance we are providing to EU member states through the European semester, where we coordinate our macroeconomic and fiscal policies. But in any case, what is an important element of novelty here is that we will be raising money for the EU budget by common borrowing at the EU level, done by the European Commission. It has never been done so at this scale in the EU before. So we recognize that we need to face this problem jointly, and we will be doing it also through joint borrowing.
So many are calling that a Eurobond in disguise, and then some wind up pointing to bank stocks that didn't really rally on that news. What does that tell you about investors and markets in terms of that they believe that it's going to work?
First of all, EU has already mobilized substantial crisis response. I already mentioned 3.4 trillion euro, and more is to come. Then, once again, what is important in this case is that we act together and we act in a coordinated way, and we are proposing indeed major novelties in terms we are going to finance this crisis response. Whether we call it Eurobonds, Corona bonds, recovery bonds, I think it's all, can be debated, but it doesn't change the underlying structure, that we will be financing part of our crisis response through the joint borrowing.
Last time you were on with me, we talked about the possibility of acquiring equity stakes in struggling companies. Do you have an update on that in any way in terms of how big it might be? How do you manage it, if you even like the idea anymore?
Indeed, this is one of the proposals we will put forward as a part of our recovery plan, so-called solvency support instrument, indeed to support investment, among other things, to companies' equity, but mainly, so to say, in indirect way. In any case, what we need to recognize here is that we have recently made more flexible our state aid framework, so-called temporary state aid framework, which allows more flexibility for member states to support their companies. But we must recognize that the member states' possibilities to support their companies differ. There are high debt countries like in Southern Europe. There are countries with overall lower level of economic development and incomes like in Central Eastern Europe. So we need to support also investment and support for those companies, and to help to level playing field with the help of this solvency support instrument.
And last question as we go here, how quickly do you think the euro area economy can actually recover to those pre-crisis levels?
Actually, if we manage to get pandemics under control, we expect quite swift recovery in the economy. So our spring economic forecast expects 7.4% recession in the European Union this year, followed by 6.1% growth next year. So as you see, it's quite rapid recovery, but it's of course based on certain assumptions that the confinement measures we are currently having are limited to the first half of the year, that in the second half of the year they are gradually eased and lifted, allowing economic activity to resume. And under this scenario, we can expect quite strong rebound of the economy. So what we are trying to do in between is, in a sense, to preserve the productive capacity of EU economy, to support our companies, to support people's incomes, and if we manage to do it in current crisis period, economy can actually rebound quite strongly once the pandemic is under control.